Group when the president announced that all public gatherings and sporting events had been banned. The first question, I think it was Reku Ampofu who put it there and said, what are we going to discuss now that the local sport is done and the international sport is also done? And that really is the crux and the thrust of today's show. We'll be touching a bit on how interestingly this has impacted journalism and sports journalism in particular, but also the people we report on. And as football is the biggest sport in Ghana, we thought it prudent to be asking, how is it affecting the Ghana Premier League? Don't forget, some of them were already traveling to match centers or traveling from match centers when the announcement from the president was made. What did it mean for them financially? What did it mean? What does it mean for a league that has just come out of about 18 months or so of a time without serious football activity? My name is Gary Al Smith, and that's how I welcome you today to today's edition of the Joy Sports Track.
Joy 99.7 FM.
So imagine this scenario. I mean, December 2019, you are told that finally football can begin. And this is after a time when you've not really played serious football, you've not had your salaries paid a lot, your employers, that's the football club that you play for in Ghana, has sort of commandeered a regime of only half payments because really you're not playing football, you're not getting bonuses, you're not getting any extra emoluments for motivational packages or whatever it is. You're playing football at the end of December, January, February, March, and then coronavirus rears its very, very intrusive head. And then finally, you are told by the Ghana Football Association, oh, you can carry on playing, we are not having any issues at the moment. But then the supreme law of the land, which is vested in the president, as it manifested yesterday in the State of the Nation, on one fine Sunday evening, says that all public and sporting gatherings are done. It means then that you suddenly have to think, where is my next paycheck coming from? If you're a club owner, you have to start thinking, how exactly am I going to justify paying these boys when they are not playing any football? Can I take care of them? Some of these boys not only depend on the football clubs, but their extended families also do, if they are very, very talented. Mustar Nabila is a veteran of the Ghana Premier League in terms of some of these backstage matters. He hears things that we don't, and he'll be helping me. George Addo is also here as well. But let's not waste time. Let's go to the people that really, really matter. Albert Yaya Komi is a regular on this show and a friend of Joy FM. Mr. Komi, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, my brother.
He is the CEO of 11 Wonders Football Club that is based in Techiman. So, first of all, sir, how did you hear the news yesterday? Where were you and where was your entire team?
Thank you very much. In fact, I heard the news this morning and not yesterday. Maybe because I was involved in a match that I can say was very crucial because we're playing draws who are also not comfortable where they were, and we see that they've come to really either get a 3 point or get 1 point. So we need to really look at the game. But this morning, then on the WhatsApp, I realized that the president has spoken. Then the GFA one also surfaced. In fact, when I read them, then I saw that this have come. But I saw it coming, so I wasn't surprised at all. But I saw it this morning.
Nice one. I mean, we've been wondering where, yesterday, when the news came out that the president was going to address the nation, a few people said, oh, but it's 10 p.m. and a lot of people will be asleep. And I guess you are one of those who heard it this morning and not yesterday evening. What can you tell us about how your team, that's the players and some of the other key staff, also heard the news?
Well, before then, let me preface it by saying that we went to pre-match, which normally I do go because this is where a lot of things are discussed.
Yeah.
And the MC made it very clear that there have been directives that we need to know. And he made it very open that there will not be handshakes. Then he also made sure that We should make sure that the waters are very clean. He made certain specific things that shouldn't make us, even if there is a problem, we shouldn't spread it.
Sure.
So he was talking specifically about the supporters and the numbers that will come. He wants to make sure that, in fact, I'll talk my heart to the MC, because you could see that
that's the match commissioner.
The match commissioner, yes, was very, very prompt on it. And all those things coming, I realized that until we see the end of it, our game is going to be halted. Then this morning, I heard this thing. So I just left a meeting because I called the management. Normally they went for a training, what they call the shake-ups after match. And then I called the technical team and the management to a meeting. We just closed because we're asking ourselves that what do we do in terms of planning.
Yeah.
And then we had problem with this indefinite, because though the president's speech was definite, the FA's statement was indefinite.
Indefinite, yes.
And that is where we cannot read through the lines. But we as a district have to monitor within a week and then make sure that we put certain measures, because the second window will also be open. The
transfer window, you mean?
Yes, the transfer window will open.
Today.
Today, good. And what it means is that you cannot just sit idle. So what we do on a normal circumstance, so we call the team doctor in, and it's giving us all the advice as to when the new players come, what we have to do to make sure that at least they don't carry anything. We look at them. So we've accepted that, look, every player that comes, in terms of we seeing the player, whether he can fit into the system, we must let him go to the hospital first before we admit him.
Okay.
And so that is what we've done so far. But because it's an indefinite, there's nothing we can do. We are hoping that at least we'll be giving further directives for us to know when the league will resume, for us to know, because we have a crucial stage and we need to make sure that at least we can plan very well. Okay. Planning is the key to this.
What I can tell you though is that, I mean, from what we've picked up, even though the FA said indefinite, it was more in a precautionary sense, because what they wanted to do was to take direct lead from the national directives. So if at any point the government says that now we can have public gatherings, what I am being told is that the FA will also follow up and say that, okay guys, we are giving you 1 week to organize yourselves. Next week we are starting. So that is what I know. That is what we have picked up. But
then we pray that this thing ends, because it's going to bring a lot of unplanned costs.
That's what I want to ask you. What is the plan? How do you normally, I mean, taking a cue from the time number 12 struck and there was no football, how do you normally deal with situations like that? Are you going to pay the players? Are you going to ask them to go home? What's the plan?
It depends on the contract that you have with the player. But you have to honor the contract. If it's within a contract that every month the player, but force majeure like this, you can meet the players and let them understand that, look here, we are not getting anything in terms of dates. Sponsors might not be, you don't have even at all. The little you have may not also come. So what you need to do is that you go into agreement with the player. There are times that you realize that the players may not have it, but you have no choice. You have to honor that agreement that you have with it. That's the unfortunate side of it. But that's why I pray that at least the players may see through the difficult times that the club are going through. Okay. And then also this virus thing must stop. That is a big solution that we have to pray for the divine intervention.
Mr. Kwame, please hold on. We have some official reaction that you might want to hear. Jesse Ajipong is the vice chair of the organizers of the Premier League, or those in charge of the Premier League management. Hi, Jesse.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Doing well, sir. How are you two this afternoon?
Fantastic. God is good.
Yes. We are just speaking to one of your stakeholders. That's Albert Kwame of 11 Wonders. He's on the line, and he's been telling us about how they heard the news about the suspension of all sporting activity and then the subsequent directive from the GFA. And he's saying that it's essentially going to be very difficult times for them financially, with the players paying and so on. what is the plan, yes, from your side for some of your stakeholders like Albert Comey and the other club CEOs?
So, first of all, we need to work from the directive, from the side of the directive. It's a public interest directive.
Sure.
It's not one that is coming to anybody as a surprise, but I think that anybody who's been following the trend so far over the past 3 weeks will come to the same conclusion that there are some things that we probably should have imagined that it would actually happen. That's number one. Number two is that the directive so given by the leadership of the country is not one that puts a complete ban forever in the street of the playing of the game itself. We're looking at a window of about 4 weeks. Now, I don't think that the clubs should be immediately overly concerned about that. The reason being this, that within the next week or two, the first leg of the season itself would have come to an end.
Yes.
Which would have created like a window for the second leg to actually happen. So technically, the president's directive, plus or minus, basically affects, let's say, about 11 days of what the season should have looked like, because there's supposed to be like a break between the first and the second leg. So I don't think that there's supposed to be a very major block now. Now, where I feel the concern would be is if at the end of the 4-week window, the situation does not change and things don't circle themselves back, then from a club perspective to the FA perspective, then we begin to have a major economic conversation as to the impact of the directive globally and locally on the game itself. But as of now, I think that our window of worry isn't really the 4 weeks because we would have gone on a break anyway.
Nice one. So, Mr. Comey, you're on the line as well. Yes. I mean, you get what Jesse is saying. So perhaps for the meantime, in the interim, you have a window in which you can put a few things in order and not worry too much. Is this a satisfactory?
Well, I've heard what he said. In fact, we support the statement that have come out.
Yeah.
But the truth is that he has gone further to say that they're looking at 4 weeks.
Yes.
Because, yes, we are aware that we have two. But that, we know that there are 4 weeks that we have to plan within in terms of registration. But now, when they said, until further notice, you know how difficult it is. Now, I've heard from him that we need to look within the 4 weeks and see whether there will be new developments. That makes you to plan within the 4 weeks. Because what we met, the question is that do you plan within 2 weeks, do you plan within 4 weeks? When they ask you that, okay, looking at the circumstances, we can just start. Does it mean that we have to break the players? Does it mean that we have to let the players train on that kind of thing? All these things are things that we have to think about. So I'm grateful that he's spoken in this way. It tells me that they are looking at the directive from the president, and in that perspective, we can plan with him. And then if still things are not, then we look at it. For that, as I said, we pray for divine intervention to make sure that at least this unfortunate epidemic will not hit us the way we don't want it. And I pray that it will end very soon.
All right, thank you, Mr. Comey. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll continue with Jesse, but let me say bye to you, Mr. Comey. We appreciate your time. Right, so Jesse, you've heard what he's articulating there, but if I should ask you, how will this affect the calendar of the Ghana Football Association?
Sorry, so I missed the earlier part of the question. If you could just...
Yeah. I was just asking Mr. Albert Comey. I was bidding him goodbye because he had been on the show before you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so my main question is, how does it affect what's happening, the suspension? How would it affect, from your side, the football calendar of the Ghana Football Association?
Well, I think that we can take a look at it primarily. Maybe let's take a look at it from the economic side. We started a league, and I think that the league was actually enjoying a very fantastic momentum, building the type of excitement that we're building so far. I think has been super great. The concern has been putting the game on hold, and what that means, one, in terms of sponsor interest, what that means in terms of commercial engagements at the park itself. And I can say for a fact that we're having a lot of discussions about the game, including taxation deductions so far as match tickets are concerned, how much every host team gets out of the total money that are actually raised. So these are major discussions that at the committee level that we actually having to ensure that we can put forward a good fight that ensure that the clubs are making as much money as possible. And then boom, this actually comes up. So this more or less, to somebody it might look like it gives us a window to clear the administrative things that we need to clear. But from a playing body perspective, it actually affects a lot. And we're actually hoping that whatever happens at the global level, we might get some good indications that, look, things may taper off a little bit to enable us get back into the stadium again. But for now, it's a worry. But we are hoping that it will clear within the 4-week window that the president actually did hope that it would actually clear. Oh,
great. Jesse, thank you for your time. I suppose at this time, there isn't much I can ask, apart from the fact that we were a bit whispered to us here at Joy Sports that there was some sponsors be coming. In fact, on one of the radio stations on Saturday, I think it was on Star FM, Henry mentioned that there was a sponsor who was, or sponsor or sponsors that were going to be mentioned. So it's out there. I mean, once you are here, it will be criminal if I don't ask you.
So I have tried, Gary, over the past couple of weeks, not to speak to these financial matters and to have the system, the body structure itself speak to them. I think that fortunately or unfortunately, this issue has actually happened. My belief is the fact that things will turn around quickly to enable the system actually work the way it has to work. The priority is shifted a little bit to the concerns of the clubs and things like that. So I would leave that to Prosper, the good office of Prosper, to get by with it.
You mean the general what? The CEO of the GFA to announce, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, but from the way you are talking, I mean, clearly we know that there's something coming.
Take away.
Well, I think that, to be fair, the approach that we took for year one was an approach that said that the competition was coming from a very low moment.
Sure.
The league had been truncated. We had a normalization league being played. And then we went back to the clubs to say, look, we went back to the sponsors to say, look, we've been through hard times. We are rebuilding the league itself. And therefore, in the process. So instead of walking around with a major proposal that says, give me $10 million or $5 million, we're having segment-specific conversations with some sponsors. And when you have segment-specific conversations, the value you are asking for is not very crazy. And it's much more easier for people to swallow their heads around it. So that approach things have worked.
Okay, all right. So, Jesse, I think your point is well made. Listeners can hear somebody else talking there. That is our next guest who is going to be on. It's Kennedy Boache of Asante Kotoko. Kennedy.
Hi, bro.
Hi, bro. Now, you are intruding into our conversation.
I didn't know I was on air.
No worries. I mean, but Jesse was just making a point, and let me be concise. He said some sponsorship is coming, so be ready. Jubilate.
Oh, it's exciting to hear that from the essay.
Yeah.
We'll continue to offer our support.
All right. So at this point, let me bid Jesse goodbye. Jesse, thank you also for joining us to help us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So that's Jesse Ajipong. He's the vice chair of the people who put the Ghana Premier League together. That's Jesse. So let's hear from one of the biggest clubs in Ghana. Kotoko fans will say that they are the biggest. Hearts of Folk don't. So when I'm speaking, I'm careful. One of the two biggest clubs in Ghana, Asante Kotoko, and the PRO is Kennedy Boache and Shanghai. Again, we've been hearing from Jesse, and then before him, Albert Comey, to give us a sense of how the coronavirus and the news of the suspension of the league was taken by Asante Kotoko or by the clubs, and how you have disseminated the information to your players. So that's what I'd like you to answer first.
Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity to reach out to the masses. Indeed, we've actually been monitoring the situation in the country. And in fact, we actually had a meeting with the circus leadership yesterday after a team's hotel in Achimota. And, at the side of the meeting, we actually were discussing the effects of the coronavirus. And most probably, we're actually thinking that there's a possibility that if we actually play today's game, probably that would have been the last game until further notice. So we are not actually
So for the benefit of listeners, Kennedy, Kotoko was supposed to play Inter-Allies today.
Yeah, we're supposed
and
to
that's
play
what
Inter-Allies
Kennedy
today.
is talking about, yes.
Yeah, we were supposed to play Inter-Allies this afternoon. But actually, we're thinking that most probably after today's game, there's a possibility that the FA was going to suspend the league based on the intelligence we're also picking from the corridors of football and then from government. But I think it's a good call by the government. We all need to be safe. Life is important. Life is beautiful. And at this moment in time, every Ghanaian's life is extremely important. So if for the fact that we can't play our football and that also helping the fact that we also would want to put a stop to the spread of the virus, then so be it. So for us as a protocol, we'll continue to offer our support to the GFA, we'll continue to offer our support to the government in our quest to actually stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Nice one. I'd like to know though, Kennedy, between the time the first 2 cases were confirmed and yesterday's outright suspension of sporting activities, can you paint a picture, please, of the mood in the Kotoko camp? What was it like? Was it that the players were wondering if they should be going to play? Were they becoming a bit more careful? Were they wary of, the numbers that will come to the stadium? What was it like?
Fortunately, we have a solid medical team headed by Dr. Chumisi, and we actually put in place a lot of mechanisms to actually stop the spread of the virus. Because our immediate concern is the fact that we need to take care of the playing body and the technical team as well as the management of the team. So that's our immediate concern. What we actually been doing is that we've been educating ourselves. Even this morning, before the team left for Kumasi, we had a meeting at the team's hotel where one of the medical personnel, the person of Andy, actually gave a pep talk about the fact that 6 new cases has been reported in the country.
Yeah, and
there's a possibility that number might also increase. But coming from a medical point of view, he actually gave us ways and means to stop the spread of the virus amongst ourselves. So it's something we've taken it serious. We can't joke with it because we can't afford to lose a member of the team, be it a player, be it a technical team member, be it a management member, or be it a supporter. So we're actually concerned.
Nice one. Now, the one I would want to ask you, and please, I'm giving you advance warning. Don't be diplomatic, Kennedy. Again, between the time all these cases were, even before the first 2 cases were confirmed in the country, did you get a sense from, because I know some of your supporters were quite vociferous in saying that the league should have been suspended before the president's directive? Do you think that Ghana Football Association or you, Galka, should have lobbied or pushed for the league to be suspended before the president issued his directive last night?
Not at all. We've actually been monitoring all the issues in the country. Some of us, based on what we do for a living, I work for the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. So I've been reading a lot about the coronavirus and how it spreads. And once there were 2 cases reported in the country, then I realized that we need to put our destinies into our own hands to ensure that the 2 other cases will just be just about it. Unfortunately, after yesterday, 4 more cases were reported, making it a total of 6. And there's a possibility that a 6 is more like 6 families. So
yeah.
And those people might have also come into contact with other people. You never know. But we're supposed to play against Inter-Allies today. Can you just imagine maybe the 6 infected people might have come into contact with somebody who will come and watch the game, and that person also will come into contact with people at the stadium today. That's why I'm saying that it's a life and death situation, and I feel it's a good call by the government, it's a good call by the GFA to suspend the league. Nice.
And then finally, in terms of education for the players, how do you guys go about it? Give us a sense of, is there a concerted effort? Do you have like a team meeting where you take them through the do's and don'ts? How is Kotoko as a club managing it? Because we know other clubs, have various ways in which they educate their players.
Oh, it's something we've been doing, since the outbreak of the coronavirus. And even this morning, before the team left for Kumasi, the medical team also had took us to some educational lines as to how to go about the spread and the prevention and all that, So we've taken it serious. There's another team in Kumasi waiting for the team. We're actually monitoring the situation. If there's a need for us to break the team, we'll do so. If we have to keep the team at one place, we'll do so. So we actually do a lot of consultations. We actually also studying the trend in the country, and in the coming days we actually issue a statement to that effect. But we are very much calm. There's no need to press a panic button. I believe that the Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health is extremely capable of handling the situation, but they also put our destinies in our hands to also ensure that amongst us there won't be any case reported, and again also not help the spread of the virus.
Yeah, and I know I said finally, but finally.
Hey, Gary.
yeah. Because football employs so many people, and when number 12 happened, we were among the media houses that were putting numbers to the quantum or the numbers of people who had lost jobs. So it's a big deal, for it touches a lot of people.
Right? I know.
You've talked about things that you do. Can you please be specific? What practical measures have you put in place in the team? Give us examples about how they shouldn't be together. We want practical measures that people will know what some of the players are doing in the Ghana Premier League. Okay,
so for us, what we've done is even this month we actually give the players face mask. The players do not live at the same place. So in terms of going to training, we are not training today. Most probably we might train tomorrow in Kumasi. But we also have advised that they shouldn't find themselves in crowded places. They should ensure that the mode of transportation to the training grounds should also be carefully. For want of a better word, we need to be extremely careful in terms of our mode of transportation to the training ground. So. Yeah. And again, hand washing, using sanitizers and all that. I mean, these are practical examples that they're going to the playing. But fortunately, they've also been monitoring issues in the world and all that. They've been listening to the news, they've been reading issues online and all that. So, even for the players themselves and the training coach as well as the management, we know how to go about it. But we'll continue to educate ourselves. We'll continue to advise ourselves as to how to go about this issue.
Great. Kennedy Boachi Ansah speaks for Asante Kotoko Sporting Club. And thank you for your time. Now, after Kotoko, we go to Heart of Oak, naturally. And so we have Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo on the line with us. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Your radio I think is on. So if you could kindly lower it for us.
I think it's off now.
Yes, it is off. So, sir, I don't know if you've been listening from the beginning, but we've been having a show on the coronavirus. Subsequently, the president's suspension of all sporting activities and how it's affecting Ghana Premier League clubs. Heart of Oak is one of the biggest. And so, what would you say is Heart of Oak doing after the announcement of the suspension?
We have not taken any decision as a board on this issue. I don't know about management. They might have probably taken a decision.
Sure.
And so anything I say now is my personal view. I think it's important that the whole thing that match itself has been called off. This probably will stop the spread of virus all over the country. However, I think it has really had a big effect on this new league that we are playing. Sure. In the sense that we've tried, and I think it was also going well, to build interest in the league. And all of a sudden this has happened. Now, we are not even aware when football will start again as a league. It's our hope that it will not take a long time.
Yeah, sure.
So that we get back to work. So this is the way I look at it so far.
Yes, you mentioned that it will have a very big effect. Could you please be a bit more specific for us? I mean, we've spoken to 11 Wonders, we've spoken to Kotoko. You know, they mentioned different ways in which it affects them. So, from a peculiarly Heart of Oak situation, what would you say will be the effect for you?
First and foremost, I was thinking about the game itself and how gradually interest in the game has been building up since the league started. I have been following this very carefully, and I think it's a good plus for the league. People have started getting interest in the league. However, with what we have on our hands now, I think it is the responsibility of various club leaders or management to make sure the boys are kept together. At least Hearts of Oak, this is what I think we should do. And then they continue with their training and physical fitness management that has been going on. Because if we pause for a long period, it might affect their program, and that might probably create a big problem for our club. Now, mind you, we don't know when the whole thing, the suspension is going to be lifted, and that is a big problem. If we were to know that, of course, you can say, give the boys a week or two to sort of rest, and then you call them maybe a fortnight before the suspension is lifted. But as I talk to you now, I have no idea when the whole thing is going to be called off, so that's a big concern. Now, if clubs can manage the financial aspect of the boys, that would be very good. You know, you can't just ask them to go home.
Yeah.
They go home, there's nothing that they are going to do. Most of them depend entirely on the football, not just themselves, but even their families. There's one thing that I've been thinking about also, at least as far as our club is concerned, as a club is concerned, I think it is time now we see what supporters can do for us. I've seen it happen before. What supporters can do, I'm talking about financial assistance. If they really want to be part of the whole exercise, which I believe they are, this is the time for them to assist financially. And I believe whatever contribution supporters can come, because we have them in numbers, whatever contribution supporters can come out with will help the club tremendously, and that will help also the players. So in short, this is how I look at it.
Nice. So finally, I mean, the decision was taken while Hearts of Oak was somewhere around Techiman, the team, you know, and so we got a few supporters, not Hearts of Oak supporters, but generally people feeling that maybe the GFA, because from what we've gleaned from the conversations we've even had today with Kennedy, the PRO of Kotoko, with Mr. Albert Comey, CEO of Techiman 11 Wonders, it seems that all the clubs had an idea. You know, you had been primed that this was probably in the offing. So the question directly is, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, do you think that the GFA should have gone ahead of the government to have suspended football maybe, knowing that anytime the government could have made a decision, it could have affected clubs like it did affect Hearts of Oak, because you had already made your way and you were in Techiman, you know, and so now you have to return, and so on and so forth?
No, so I believe strongly that today's match shouldn't have been cancelled by the GFA. This is the way I look at it. And I believe strongly also that the directives from government shouldn't be so immediate. If you watch carefully what happened, at least in my area where I live in Accra, there was a lot of panic buying. You see, I think the countries that I have followed as far as this particular problem is concerned, they were a bit relaxed in giving time. There was no this sort of prompt or immediate action that we have on our hands here. So, as far as I'm concerned, definitely the match that should have been played today should have come on. But what do you see now? As you said, it's quite an expensive trip to Techiman, and then coming back is another cost. So this is the way I see it. I think the GFA definitely could have, if they were consulted by government. I don't know if they were consulted because they are quite key players in this. If they were consulted, definitely they should have come out with some sort of explanation to government that at least today's match should have gone on. So this is the way I look at it.
Yeah, and finally to the fans, you mentioned that the love for the Ghana Premier League was coming back, and we all witnessed it. I mean, people have been going to the stadia. We've got quite a number of new converts, even though we are not where we all wanted to be. What would be your message to these new converts who suddenly have seen their growing love for the Ghana Premier League cruelly cut short by this unfortunate or unforeseen circumstance?
I think if you follow the league carefully, you can see that it's becoming very interesting. Teams have been very competitive. You don't see any sort of foul work being done by any team at all. And I'll tell these new converts or whatever you call them, these new boys or girls who are so interested in football now, that they should not lose hope at all. I am very, very sure that when we start, the window has now been opened, so there might be new entrants as far as some of the clubs are concerned, and we are going to see a very competitive football that definitely will draw all our former viewers to the various stadia across the country.
Excellent as always, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's the view from Heart of Oak, and before then the view from Kotoko, and then before then the view from Techiman 11 Wonders. Not enough to be a sample size for the Ghana Premier League, which has more than 3 teams, of course, but yeah, and Jesse Japan as well, who gave us the official version. So Muftau, come closer to the microphone. 7 minutes to the top of the hour here on Joy 99.7 FM. Today's show was to localize the discussion for over the last 2 weeks. We've been having global editions of the coronavirus and how it's affecting people. And now we've seen,
I basically think this was the perfect way to approach it. We spoke to the key actors, those who engage in the decision-making process of the game. And their views definitely matters in times like this. You would recall that I had earlier even said that the GFA needed to be proactive.
Yeah, you were calling for the suspension as early as
about a week ago.
Yeah.
And today here we are. We've gotten to a point where the GFA doesn't have control over the decision again, and it has made it really difficult. A club like Kumasi Asante Kotoko, a club like House of Oak, traveling all the way to Techiman, like he mentioned, and then they will have to spend to come back. That's additional cost. And I think if the GFA had acted swiftly, we wouldn't have been here. Maybe they could have taken the decision maybe somewhere Wednesday, or maybe they could have played the matches today.
Muftau, the interesting thing is, and people don't like it when you say this is Ghana. The intricacies of these decision making, and George Ado is also here with me as well, is that if the GFA goes ahead, considering how many people the GFA touches with this decision making in terms of the passion, in terms of how many people support Heart, how many people support Kotoko and Adriana and all these things, and they suspend football, don't you think that somebody at the GFA would have said, this thing, it will cause him, and it will cause us to go ahead of the press. You know what I mean?
Well, I do understand from that angle, but we need to also factor in how clubs spend to travel.
Sure,
they spend to make their movements. So if like they've all mentioned, they said they saw this coming. So since you saw it coming, those in charge of the product should have taken the decision very early, very, very early. And if they had done that, just maybe House of Oak wouldn't be traveling back to Accra with additional cost. They probably would have just stayed in Accra after that game they played on Wednesday against the Great Olympics.
Nice. George, so, I mean, you've heard from all the actors. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I think I'm just responding to this. In the context, really, every fan in Ghana would have understood anyway, because games were being cancelled elsewhere because of coronavirus, and we had recorded, we could have gone in. I understand the clubs clearly. If you were going to suspend the games, it should come early enough. But it's an interesting angle that Dr. Nyawa Tomaklo went on, saying that if we didn't suspend the games with the match day starting, we should have thought about letting it go down nicely. But that would also have had its own effect.
Yeah, but what if the president of the country had suspended sporting activities? It would have been, it really would have been difficult. But I
know in England the National League was on, and the criticism was massive.
Massive, yes.
You know, for them. So,
but you know, what do you call it? Dr. Tamaklo also mentioned swiftly when he mentioned that the GFA should perhaps. He went on by saying that he thinks that even at the national level,
it should have been in phases.
It should have been phased,
phases,
rather than a boom, abrupt, sudden decision, which is also interesting because I've spoken to some people today who feel that even with the way schools have been closed and this has been closed, gatherings have been banned, blah 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 blah, they feel that the next stage will be businesses, but businesses are being given time to get their affairs in order.
We can buy our stuff. Like you mentioned, there was panic buying in his area.
Yeah.
So what this clearly means is that when we all step out, we all go and do the panic buying.
You know, but it's interesting how some of these national conversations are nuanced when it comes to football as well. So, gentlemen, we have just about 2 minutes.
Guys, can I say something out of coronavirus?
Yes.
Ibrahim Tanko, Stephen Napier, Olele are heading to the ministry to demand their 5-month salary. Kwesi Appiah is asking the Ghana Football Association to pay him within 2 weeks.
The fellow man has spoken. Kwesi Appiah has not been paid for what?
For 6 months. He has asked the Ghana FA to pay him within 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, Tanko, Olele, Appiah were at the ministry. Last week they were there. Today they will be there. I don't know if they are already there. But should I say they are there right now?
No, if they are there, say it. But thank you, Muftar Abdullah, and for giving us essentially what our next topic for our next show is. So, if you are tuning in next time, you know that we are going to be discussing that as well. This is the end of today's edition of the Joy Sports Track. I'm Gary Al Smith, show produced by George Ado Jr., who also came to speak. We end with the President's Declaration. Bye-bye.